hello everyone. Now we are here to inform you about all that's going to be happening in the month of June. June is monumental because the main thing that we're going to talk about is we have that Jupiter Rahu conjunction, and this is like the 1st of June. But before we dig into our deep dive into June, Shree said she has some news about talking about what has already happened last month that we discussed, therefore how our predictions have really manifested. So Shree, tell us a little bit about what we talked about last month and what's been occurring.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you for coming back to watch our monthly predictions. Joni and I, we love doing this the end of the month every time. I mean, it's so much fun to look at the chart and come up with all these predictions. And at the same time, it gives us a sense of understanding as to what's going on around us. A lot of times we feel like we are walking blindly into life, but astrology gives us a certain understanding, and it tells us, okay, here's what's going to come and here's how you can prepare. Exactly. So we were looking at last month, and remember, if you guys remember, we talked about the eclipse being conjunct Rahu and Jupiter, Mercury and Uranus. And we talked about Uranus being airplanes, and we have the eclipse happening, which means there's going to be some kind of big events happening. And we talked about Mercury, which also rules writing and media. And right. One of the things we saw happen last month, Joni, was the Writers Guild strike. And that's, just an example of the kind of things that can happen when we have these kind of conjunctions. And it's not mostly that literal, guys, right? A lot of times it is, we have to kind of understand the higher meaning of these conjunctions and glean, a lot more from it. But sometimes it is literal, Mercury writing and eclipses bringing hidden things out into the open. And then you have these events, explosive events happening. So that's, that was definitely the strike. And then you also have the American Airlines pilots threatening to go on strike as well during the summer. And I think Southwest Airlines did that too. And with Uranus ruling airplanes and being conjunct Rahu right there, and that's another thing that we saw happening that was, in line with what we're seeing in the sky. So we just wanted to kind of touch on those points. I'm sure a lot of other events have happened, but these are some of the more pertinent ones. And anything else you want to add to that, Joni?
Well, I know that this has been going on all throughout May, but it's also going on in June. So yes. We're not out of the water with either of those scenarios, with communications, with travels, and with the traffic. I've heard that the traffic at the airports and the airlines have picked up more than in the past 2 years. So yes. If you're going somewhere, make sure you're fully prepared for delays or setbacks in airports. I mean, it's one thing when you get to an airport and it hits you where you didn't expect it. But when you're prepared mentally, I believe, for anything, you can handle it.
Yes.
So yes. Get ready. This is going to be a long summer. And I say that from the Northern Hemisphere because some of my friends down in Australia are getting ready for the opposite time of year. But this is going to be a long 3 months coming up here. And this particular month, I'm excited about because of all the changes that are going to be happening. Although we need to prepare you guys because it's going to be pretty volatile. That's basically, I'm just ready to prepare everyone of what this month of June is about to bring us.
So many planetary transitions happening this month, guys. We were talking about it earlier, Joni and I, and we're going to show you that in the chart right now because I know you guys like to see the chart and kind of, visually see what we're talking about. So let me go ahead and share the screen. Are you able to see this, Joni?
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Good. Yes.
So here we are on June 1st, right there. And this is the chart. So I'm going to change this. I think I have this in Dallas, Texas, because that's where we are. So let me make this Washington.
And by the way, where we will be on June 1st and through the 5th is going to be celebrating the conference, Future of Astrology. So I hope that a lot of you will be here at that time. But yeah, we're looking forward to that conference, and we chose these times astrologically, and we'll explain in just a moment. But
yeah, we are looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys here. So if you're locally in Dallas, stop by this weekend. We can't wait to meet you. You'll see a lot of big names in the world of astrology there. And we'll have a meet and greet. It'll be a really nice get together. So, it's time still not run out. So get your tickets and come over to the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, and we'll be there this weekend.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. So on the 1st, this is Thursday, the moon is in Libra. And with that moon in Libra, of course, it is with K2. But notice that while Venus is transiting in Cancer, we have got what we call a Parivartana between moon Venus, because Venus sits in Cancer ruled by the moon, and the moon sits in Libra ruled by Venus. And moon Venus is so delightful. People are in good moods. People really get along together. And I think that is going to be what we need, because if you'll also notice, Mars sits at 12 degrees of Cancer, and it fully aspects Saturn at 12 degrees of Aquarius. So that's that can deal with some setbacks, some anger issues, but the moon, I think, will counteract that. We really need that moon. And the moon being with K2, that's spirituality, that's deep, going to look inside for that which is the spiritual purpose in our lives. So I believe that's a beautiful aspect, but do look out for that Mars Saturn. It's going to have its effects. And then most importantly, what I've been talking about, look at that Jupiter Rahu. They are exactly conjunct at 9 degrees of Aries. We need to talk about this. They will be, pretty much together. They will be together. Actually, Jupiter and Rahu will be in the same sign all the way till Rahu changes signs the end of November. But we're talking about this exact conjunction on this day. What does that mean? I mean, Aries is the sign of new beginnings, fresh starts, pioneers, and being in the nakshatra called Ashwini, it's actually called the star of transport. So therefore, I know there's a lot going on that's hectic in the area of travel. And we still have Mercury with Uranus. And in a few days, I believe we're going to talk about this, but around the 4th of June, Mercury will be exact with Uranus. And that deals with new invention, new ideas, open-mindedness. I call Uranus the great awakener. With Mercury and tied up with the Jupiter Rahu, we're going to have a big awareness, awakening that's coming. And also, when we move forward, we're going to see we're approaching at this time the full moon. Anything you want to say about this, Shri, before we move on?
Yes, the Jupiter Rahu you were talking about, absolutely, you're absolutely right. It is a time to manifest your desires, because, Jupiter is the guru, Rahu is about manifesting. In Vedic astrology, this is a Guru Chandala yoga, which is Jupiter is the guru and Rahu is a little bit of a demonic force. So in birth charts, when this is there, people tend to sometimes, cut corners or do some things. It's kind of like, I think of it as the ends justify the means kind of situation, So I was also thinking, Joni, with all the politics and the politicians coming out now saying they're running for election, I have a feeling this energy is playing out, in the sense that there is a lot of, let's do things now to make sure we win the election kind of energy going on, which is typically the case. Now, Jupiter and Rahu together, it is in Ashwini Nakshatra, which is also the the symbology of Ashwini Nakshatra is the Ashwin Kumars, and it has a lot to do with medicine and healing too. So I was thinking about our conference and how we are bringing people, like-minded people together, and we are talking about astrology and how to heal yourself through your Vedic chart. And this is very much the case with the Jupiter Rahu in Ashwini Nakshatra. It's all about healing yourself, you know.
It's an amazing, amazing
Yeah, I love that.
combination.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go forward to the June 3rd, which is our full moon. So let me just put this on June 3rd, and it's at 11:42 p.m. So let's go forward to 11:42 p.m. And that exact full moon will be at that time. And this is Washington, D.C. Right there.
Yeah.
So let's see. So as you know, a full moon is, we have sun and moon exact 1907 degrees between Taurus and Scorpio. And, and whenever I think of Taurus and Scorpio, Joni, I think about hidden truths coming out, because that's Scorpio. Scorpio's and moon is debilitated there, although it is in a Parivartana.
Yes. Yes, and that reverses things. When you have the Parivartana, when we look at the moon being in Scorpio, it's in its debilitation sign. And you jump over to Mars. Well, Mars is in its debilitation sign, but they are in each other's sign of rulership. So Mars sits in Cancer, ruled by the moon, and moon sits in Scorpio, ruled by Mars. So what happens? It's like they exchange signs. So it gives you the sense that those two planets, while they're both debilitated, they reverse. So it's kind of like Mars is in Scorpio and the moon is in Cancer during this time. So this is deep emotional healing, I believe, that comes of this. And when we talk about the energy of a full moon in Vedic astrology, we talk about the moon being bright. And the brighter the moon is, the more awareness there is, because it lights up the darkness of the sky. So we have this awareness and we have this reversal of emotional energy that is so profoundly deep. Don't forget, the moon not only is in Scorpio, but it's in the nakshatra Jyesta. And Jyesta is one of the deepest, darkest nakshatras that can deal with manifestation, making things happen, because it's so intense, it's so powerful, it's so, Scorpios are known to be the most intense and passionate signs of the zodiac. And Taurus is one of the signs that I think of manifestation as well. I mean, it's ruled by Venus. And think about this too. The dispositing planet of the sun is Venus, while the dispositing planet of the moon is Mars, and they're traveling conjunct. Take it a step further. I know I'm going deep now, but if you look at the dispositing sign dispositors of Rahu and Ketu, Rahu sits in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, and Ketu sits in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So you see that Venus-Mars conjunction that are traveling together are really telling us the story of what's manifesting through all these cyclic processes of the nodes, the full moon, everything. So what does that tell you? Mars and Venus together in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is all about protection, security, and nurturing. And this is telling us we need all of those things. It's more prevalent, more prominent. And another thing is that we have the sign Cancer ruled by the moon. As the moon transits throughout every 2.5 days, when it changes signs, you'll see a big change. So you see, this is a month where things happen rapidly, quickly. Major changes are going to be happening with this Mars, which is passion, Venus, which is love. Hey, for all of us, this is a time that we can heal our relationships personally, not just globally. So look into that. This is going to be an opportune month for massive emotional healing globally and personally. That's how I see this. How can you add more spice to that?
Yes, Joni, Rahu and Ketu are also exchanging dispositors. at this time.
Yes.
So, I
Yes.
mean, with all of these changes happening, and notice, guys, how nothing is, none of the planets are retrograde. Of course, Pluto it's a slow-moving planet, outer planet, but everything else is moving forward full speed. So
Right.
this is, really, it's a very volatile and very, very changing time. And especially when you have a Parivartana yoga like this, what it typically means, and as Joni was explaining earlier, the planets are in their signs of debilitation, but because they are in each other's signs, it's almost like they're in their own signs. So think of this as Moon in Cancer and Mars in Scorpio. But, the initial event that happens, you will see it from a difficult standpoint, right? Because they are in debilitation. However, the Parivartana Yoga comes about when the outcome of that event turns out to be a positive thing. So that's how, these yogas work, because, initially it may seem like there's difficulty, even in personal charts, in early life, in the early years, there can be problems, but because of the Parivartana, it turns out to be a good outcome later on. So we see this throughout this month. Why? Because there are two planets in Cancer, Venus and Mars, and they are in Moon sign of rulership. And Moon is the fastest moving planet in the sky, heavenly body in the sky. So each time Moon goes into Libra, Scorpio, Aries, Taurus, we have Parivartana yogas happening, right? So this is a very volatile and changing time. But remember, everything that you see around you, what it may seem now, it may seem there's anger, there's frustration, there is, all these explosive stuff happening. But because of the Parivartana yoga, the outcome's going to be very positive and peace is going to be there finally. So I think that's the message here, Joni, right?
I agree. And then moving it forward a day or two.
Yeah, let me go to June 4th, was it? Yes, June 4th, Uranus is conjunct Mercury right here.
Right. That's powerful because remember that, well, hey, we're going to be in an astrology conference. I love it because Uranus rules astrology. It's conjunct Mercury, which is the intellect, the mind. And as I always say, Uranus as the great awakener, everyone is seeing things from a whole new vantage point, I believe. And because they're in the sign of Aries and Bharani means major breakthroughs, the first to do something, there's inventions, there's new ideas out there that are going to manifest, I believe, in the realm of healing and making the world a better place. And you know how we talk about this Jupiter Rahu being such, it could bring out something very big, very difficult. But I feel like starting on this day, June 4th, through the 21st, I believe, yes, that if you'll notice, Jupiter in the Navamsha sign goes to its exaltation sign. Now, this only starts on June 4th. And it will continue on through, what did I say before? The 21st?
The 20th, yes. 21st, it moves into Leo.
Okay. So that window of time makes Jupiter stronger. It makes it more powerful. And what is Jupiter essentially about? It's guru, right? It's teaching, it's spirituality. I think people are going to start looking deeper for answers through the spiritual forces in life because that's why we're here. And I think Jupiter with Rahu is going to really bring these spiritual forces alive in our lives, or the quest towards it, teaching to become more aware. I think this is going to be something very positive that manifests out of this Jupiter-Rahu conjunction due to its placement in the Navamsha. You want to add anything to that?
This is a very, very auspicious day, Joni. Moon in Sagittarius on this day and the next day. When we talk about Mercury being with Uranus, it is ruling the 7th and the 10th from the moon. Yeah. So we have career and, the relationships, business partnerships, those two houses being ruled by Mercury, sitting with Uranus, and where? In the 5th house from the moon.
Yeah.
So this is about astrology. This is, like Joni said, about new ideas. And
In,
that's what we're doing at the conference. And we talk about the conference because that's where we are going to be. But everywhere in the world, you'll
yeah.
see that, right? It's about people coming up with new ideas. And, and again, going back to the conference, all of the speakers have all these great concepts that they're going to share, which, may not be there traditionally in the Vedic text. These are research outcomes. These are new ideas that are being shared. So this is amazing that we have this. And I don't think, Joni, when we initially planned the conference, we saw this happening, but it just turns out to be like that. That's how life works, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the Jupiter being exalted. And who is Jupiter? It's the teacher, the higher enlightenment, the higher spirituality, understanding the higher truths of life. That's what Jupiter is. This is an amazing time, the third and the fourth.
And notice Jupiter's casting a trine to the moon this whole day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So
And the next day almost.
yeah,
So if we go to the next day too, right there. Yeah, this
right.
is also happening. All right. So then let's look at what else is happening. Mercury, by the way, is traveling really fast this month. After being retrograde for a while, it is now going full speed. So it's changing not one, but two signs this month.
Yes.
So the first time it's changing signs is June 7th, which will be, I think, the couple of days from here, right here. Goes into Taurus, sitting with the sun now. Remember, Mercury being so close to the sun, it's always in the same sign or on either side of the sun,
Right.
either the sign before or the sign after. And so it will be here in Taurus on June 7th, and then it changes signs again. On June 24th, it goes into Gemini. So what does this mean? Mercury is all about new beginnings, starting new projects. And we talked about, the shadow phase after the Mercury retrograde. That's over now officially because the planet's moving so fast. So you can see a lot of those projects picking up a lot of momentum and speed over the next month. But, just a fair bit of warning would be, Mercury going so fast. Sometimes we are very impulsive.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot. We tend to make quick decisions and, not think too much about what we're doing. So remember to take that step back and consider. But at the same time, you will progress in those projects that you have put on hold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else is going on here. Anything you wanted to add on that, Joni?
Well, we're going to come to that, but even though Mercury is picking up in speed, we have Saturn slowing down in speed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's going to make us a little bit more serious minded. And, and that's really this whole month that Saturn is pretty much standing still. Because by June 17th is going to be where it actually turns retrograde, but it's
Right here.
like, it's going to be 12, 13 degrees the whole entire month of Aquarius. But, Saturn is strong in Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about, especially the nakshatra it's in. I've been talking about that a lot. That nakshatra is so powerful in terms of healing. And Jupiter Rahu and Ashwini, that's about healing. So I believe there's going to be some kind of new healing modalities that come out and maybe some cures, but lots of progress in the area of health and healing coming about this whole month based on that.
Yes. And with Saturn going retrograde, it will counteract the fast-moving Mercury because Saturn being the ability to work and, have the discipline to get things done. A lot of times when it goes retrograde, we do slow down in what we are doing. We want to think more about things. We want to run it past, a second opinion or a third opinion. We do, I don't like using the word procrastinate, but it is a time when we review our decisions more closely. And another thing is when Saturn is retrograde, those labor intensive kind of work, like, if you need to get some writing done or you need that discipline to get things done, this is a good time to do that because when it's retrograde, you do think and process things more than you would usually. So this is a good time for that. Now, one more thing I was thinking about, Joni, Saturn is going retrograde in US chart in the third house.
Yeah.
And of course, it's been in the third house all this time, but it going retrograde in the third house. Once again, the media, the writing, and all of the stuff we were talking about, the Writers Guild strike and all that, I think that's going to have a lot more push during this time. There could be some more events happening around that. And maybe by the time Saturn goes direct, things can get resolved.
I agree. And another thing is you talk about the United States chart, which in my newsletter, which comes out right around the 1st of every month, I go into great detail about that Venus-Mars being in the 8th house in the United States chart, what is the 8th house? It's about money more than anything, big money. So that's what's been going on in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats fighting over, what the spending and all of that going on in the US. So that's exactly what these dispositing planets of the moon, Venus, Mars are telling us about in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the sign of protection, 8th house, money for the United States, big money. Of course, we haven't noted, we do know, and I have noted many times, the 8th house is about corruption and scandals too, which we have our fair share of that going on, don't we?
Yes. Yes, and that's also a quality of that Jupiter Rahu to some extent. But of course, most of the month we have, as Joni pointed out, Jupiter exalted and the Navamsha. So this doesn't really play out as much, but yes, the 8th house element in the US chart, specifically for the country of United States, this can mean a lot of scandal and corruption.
Yeah.
And addictions, right? Addictions, suicide, all of that. And the other thing I think we missed was the summer solstice, Joni. I think we have, let's see, June 15th, right here. Yeah. So we have, and look at that, another Parivartana happening. This whole month is about Parivartana yogas between the moon, Venus, and Mars. So we have Sun entering Gemini.
This is a dark moon. Remember this, right before we have the new moon, when you have a dark moon in Western astrology, it's called the Baslamic moon, and it represents a time for really introspection. And, it's a time in our darkness to really process information. But then we're going to have a few days later, I think it's the 17th that we have the new moon?
The 18th.
The 18th. Okay. So that's where the sun and the moon come together. No, it is the 17th. Yes.
Oh, yeah, it is the 17th year. I think it's late on the 17th here.
It's almost the 18th. You're right. So it's just, 20 minutes before the 18th. One way or another, a new moon is always a new beginning. It's always about planting that seed for the next 2 weeks that will evolve. And that new moon is in the nakshatra called Mrigashira. Mrigashira is always about searching and finding things. It's the hunt. So it deals with research and finding out our answers. And not to mention, Gemini is the sign of communications. And I think once Mercury transits into Gemini, we're going to have a lot more information globally come out, news and all that kind of stuff that's going to be more vivid and more real, if I could say that.
Yes. And also Mrigashira is about bringing the hidden truths out. A lot of times people who are Mrigashira nakshatra, they love to research is a big part of this nakshatra. Now, I was also thinking, Joni, around this time, so when we talk about the sun moving into Gemini, we have June 24th when Mercury again shifts signs once again, which is going to be right there. Yeah, right there on the 25th, right? It shifts signs into Gemini. and we have the Sun and Mercury together. You were telling me earlier about the quality of this conjunction.
Yes. Well, when they become exactly conjunct, I mean, this is a little bit of the astronomy, which I love. But when you have Mercury Sun conjunction, if they're retrograde, that means it's an inferior conjunction. And what that actually equates to is that Mercury is on the inside with the Earth and the Sun. So it's on the inside. That's the inferior conjunction, and Mercury will always be retrograde. But this is going to be the superior conjunction when Mercury and the Sun are exactly conjunct. And the way that it looks is you have Earth, Sun, and Mercury on the other side of the Sun, all lined up in conjunction. So the superior conjunction is when Mercury's going tip-top speed. It's going as fast as it can. As you can see, sometimes it will change. It will actually spend time in 3 signs in a month, you know, at the very beginning and the end of a sign. But you can see from, you know, the beginning of the month to this time in the month, Mercury goes from Aries to Taurus to Gemini. And that's it's moving at tip-top speed, and it's exactly conjunct the Sun. You can call that Cassimi when they're both 13, 14 degrees, that they're exact. See, you can't even, it's going to pass up the Sun within hours. A little, if you go to the next day, it's like, it's going to be beyond
on the other side.
Oh, there it is. But it's towards the end of the day, June 30th, that you have that superior conjunction. But they're actually what we could call Cassimi. And what Cassimi actually means is when a planet is conjunct the Sun, and it is so tight with the Sun that it becomes one with the Sun. So it's the same degree. And it means the Sun will put out the energy of that planet. It's like if you have that in a birth chart, it means the Sun puts out the energy of Mercury. And Mercury being in Gemini couldn't be better. It's in its own sign of rulership. Of course, Virgo's the other sign that Mercury prospers in, its exaltation sign. But while it's in Gemini, I love Gemini. It's about information, learning, traveling, everything to do with what Mercury is all about. And so I think, you know, traveling will be easier while Mercury, of course, is moving tip-top speed in the sign of Gemini. And even though it's with the Sun, you know, some people say, oh, it's combust the Sun. Mercury is not really a planet that you can call combust the Sun, even though I've heard people say that. And technically, yeah, you could say combust means it's burnt up. Mercury is most of the time with the Sun. So what are you going to say? It's combust all the time? No. Mercury, it's actually a Surya Buddha, a yoga, and that is a good thing. Sun Mercury, it's actually a nice yoga, but still, with it being in Gemini and in its a superior conjunction, it's moving tip-top speed. Things are moving forward, especially in the area of communications and media and flying, moving about, traveling. But most of all, you know what I love about Mercury and Gemini? It's funny.
They have a great sense of humor, people who have Mercury and Gemini.
It's so true. People that have Mercury and Gemini are comedians, are hilarious. And there's nothing that opens us up better than laughing. When you laugh, you open, you know, everything opens and you receive. So this could be a time of, you know, maybe going to some comedy shows or watching some funny movies, but Mercury will make you laugh in Gemini. I know that sounds trivial, but hey, we all need to laugh, don't we? You want to add?
Yeah, and this is, like you said, it's a Buddhaditya yoga. So, you know, there is a lot of intelligence associated with this connection here. So it's a great time to write. It's a great time to have conversations, any meetings you want to have, especially with people in places of leadership. That's the Sun. And because they're so close, and, you know, like Joni pointed out, it's Kazimi, look at the Navamsha. They're together there too. Yeah. And there is Jupiter aspecting it. So yeah. This is an amazing combination that's going on here on this day, on the last day of June. And another thing I was noticing, Joni, is, we always publish our magazine around this time, the last day or the first day of the next month. So I thought, we should talk about what's coming up in this month in the magazine. This has been an amazing month for our magazine, such a huge inflow of articles from authors from all over the world. I mean, we had so much work involved in editing it, because everybody wants to talk about all this planetary stuff happening in the sky. There's so much stuff about. So as you know, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights magazine, it's published every month, and you can sign up for it using the link below this video. And this month, we have a huge, amazing amount of articles. And the main thing that I want to talk to you about is the interview. We interview an important person every month. And this month we interviewed Dr. Christiane Northrup. And Joni, you know her personally too. She is an amazing individual. She is the best-selling author of the book called Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And she was featured in PBS specials. She was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Today Show, the NBC Nightly News, The View, and Good Morning America. She is very popular, and she has a lot of spiritual insight. At the same time, she was a practicing doctor, so she brings both of those modalities together. Think about the Ashwini Nakshatra stuff we were talking about, and the Shatabhishek, right, with Saturn going retrograde. Here we are for the month of June with this interview. Isn't that crazy, Joni? We didn't even plan it that way.
I know. We don't even plan it that way, but the astrology is always working, right?
Yes. She talks in her interview. I'm not going to give away everything, but a lot of eye-opening facts of present-day medicine and what her experiences as a doctor. She was a gynecologist, and all the spiritual experiences she's had over a period of time. This is an amazing article that came out this month. In addition to that, we have Joni's spiritual insights and the financial astrology pick that Joni does every month. We have monthly sign predictions by Michelle Bond, another one of our great astrologers. And we have Vastu Shastra, again, our installment. It's 5 tips for garden sanctuaries. I found this very, informative this particular month, because, we are trying to set up our gardens, landscaping and everything at this time of the year. So, check out how to do it using the principles of Vastu Shastra. This is actually very important because it tells you what to plant in which part of your house and which area of your land, Then we have Audrey Weigel, who comes back with There is no death, only new beginnings. Yeah. So I think that was also amazing because of all the planetaries, transits happening in Aries, and we talk about new beginnings.
Well, and not only that, Bharani deals with death because its god is Yama.
Yama, yes.
So life, birth, and death.
Yes, and rebirth. It's the womb, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Natasha Zaslow, one of the graduates from the university and a great astrologer. She comes back with the juicy side of the 12th house, the 12th house meaning, bed pleasures. So she looks at a lot of celebrity charts to tell us that side of the 12th house. But, and I don't think they knew that they were writing these articles, but we have Barry Rosen, who comes with the article called The Astrology of Moksha and Enlightenment. So it's so crazy how this works out in our magazine. We can see 2 viewpoints of the same house in the same magazine. So I'm telling you guys, this is a very entertaining issue in the month of June. Mm-hmm. And Juliana Swanson, amazing astrologer, talks about the summer solstice, which is happening. Kim Cronin comes back with the Nakshatra series. She handles 3 Nakshatra every issue. So we have that. Then we have Rukmini Sen, who's also one of our regular writers, talking about the tarot, astrology, and numerology for this month. And then Odilia talks about the who's in the news. And this month it's Heather Armstrong, which was a very tragic event that happened this past month. But Odilia is looking at the chart and, helping us understand how her life was and what happened. So this is, it's an amazing issue, guys. So make sure you go and sign up for it. It's only $9 for a month, and it has a lot of information, not just astrology, everything that is spirituality related. I think of it as everything eighth house related, you know.
Yes, I'm really excited about this issue, Shree, because we have more articles. I mean, this is taking off. And like you say, it's so relative to what's going on in the heavens right now, everything in the magazine. So, and you know what? I love all these magazines when I travel, summertime when you're traveling. You can be reading these on the airplane, wherever you are. This is, to me, the best issue and article that we have coming out now, and it just continually gets better and better and better. You guys don't miss it, this issue.
And guys, remember, this our magazine is an electronic magazine. It's not, you don't have to remember to carry it with you on the flight or anything. It's electronic. Once you sign up, you have a login ID and password, and we have a flip book kind of mechanism for this magazine. So you flip through the pages on any device. You can look at it on your phone, on your laptop, on your Kindle, on your iPad, any of those devices. And it's really a, one of a kind, this magazine, and it gives you so much reading material. And when you sign up, you also see all the issues. So you have all of these, amazing articles that you can read. So I hope you guys sign up for this month's issue. This is definitely one of the bigger issues we've had this year.
Yes, I'm excited. I am so excited about it. And this kind of the last day of the month, look at that. Mars shifts into Leo. We've got a whole nother month in July. We got lots to talk about with that. We'll leave you hanging till the next.
Yes, and don't forget Saturn and Neptune both went retrograde this month, right? June 30th, Neptune went retrograde. So, we talked about no planets being retrograde, everything's moving fast. And here we are in the month of June, there are two major planets going retrograde. So things will slow down a little bit, but at the same time, we have Mars moving into Leo. It's the fire sign of Leo. So the month of July, we'll come back with more predictions for the month of July. Anything else that you wanted to add, Joni?
Well, this is going to start heating things up. I got to say, Mars and Leo and Saturn opposing it. Oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. Always, always things are changing. And with the moon changing signs, so every 2.5 days, it reflects back to the planets in Cancer. And what we're going to start seeing is a lot to happen July and August with Venus. I'll not give it away, but Venus is starting to slow down.
It's very slow at this point in Cancer, yes.
That's going to give a whole different tone of energy for the rest of the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. But this month, just to recap, I think that Jupiter-Rahu conjunction is enormous. That is like the biggest thing astrologically that's really happening this whole year. And the fact that it's in Aries, the fact that Jupiter's going to go into Bharani eventually, major breakthroughs and changes, everything's going to be happening so rapidly that I think we're not going to be able to wrap our heads around it. So get ready and prepare your mind, your consciousness and everything, because this is a monumental event, Jupiter Rahu, and as it sits there, comes together, and like you said, another big thing that's going on the whole time, that Rahu is in Ashwini and Ketu is in Swati. I mean, we're looking at the nodes exchange signs. Ashwini is ruled by Ketu, and Swati is ruled by Rahu. These are the indicators of karma and destiny. These placements are giant. So what we're going to see this month and so on through the rest of the year is big karmic transformational changes. This is giant. That's really happening with the nodes nakshatras exchanging signs, plus the nodes, their signs are conjunct, traveling together in Cancer. This can be a pretty, I don't even know if the word's dangerous time, with Mars being in Cancer with Venus. And you know, this is actually, if you look at it, look at Venus right now from the day that you just pulled up, it's actually sitting at the midpoint of Rahu and Ketu. I mean, and Saturn turning retrograde. I feel like this month is got this karmic destiny about it, that things that are going to be happening this month are monumental for the rest of time. These are critical time. This is a critical time historically. That's how big I think it is of what's going on this month of June. So wrap your head around it. This is powerful stuff. I have to say, this is not normal that these planets are doing all these exchanges. This month is going to create some of the biggest changes that are going to make some of the biggest differences historically in our lives.
And when I think of Venus, Joni, Venus in Pushya Nakshatra, which rules, you know, nurturing, and in Cancer, which is family and security, I think of our families and our relationships. You know, the fact that you have Venus in the midpoint of the nodes is a very karmic kind of opportunity to connect with your family. And it's happening in you know, right after summer started, right? Everybody's able to travel, meet their families, and use this as an opportunity to connect with, you know, your family members and bring your family together and have that kind of an, you know, nurturing, grounding, and, you know, the security of bringing people together. Because, you know, whenever Venus is sitting like that in Cancer, and, you know, of course it is a little close to that Mars, but at the same time, right at the midpoint of these nodes, this is a time where you can connect with your family. Now, another thing I also want to say is, you know, next month when Venus goes retrograde, it's kind of the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Because when it goes retrograde, you know, Venus rules your peace and, you know, even world peace, but even, you know, in personal charts, it's a peace of mind and your relationships. When it goes retrograde, it can mean that's not a great time to, you know, have those conversations with your spouse and that kind of thing. So this is a good time in the month of June with all of these transits that are happening. You know, I think, and I know during this time, Joni, everybody's traveling to meet their family. So although we do have, you know, you have to be careful with, you know, the delays in the flights and any kind of disruption because of the Mercury moving so fast. But at the same time, the Venus being here is indicative of your security.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think we have a big month ahead. We got to prepare. Yes.
Yeah.
Lots is going on, and we're all waking up to a new reality and a new awareness. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. And yeah, just a quick reminder, if you guys are in Dallas, get those tickets, last minute tickets, and come and meet us at the astrology conference.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us and going through all the exciting things that we have coming up here in the month of June. June's going to be monumental for change and awakenings. Awakenings. That's where I'll leave everything. So thank you, everyone, for joining Shree and I, and we look forward to keeping you in touch with all the astrological energy. Thank you.
Thank you.